Good afternoon. My name is Dale Rodriguez, and this is Flabonga Monthrothacube. And with me today, I've got LMH, Little Mighty Hero. I assume that's what that stands for.
No, but I love it. I think I'm gonna go with that from here on in.
I mean, how tall are you, LMH?
Not very. No. Have you been chatting with people who've told you that I'm vertically challenged?
No, it's just that there's only like a few Kiwis, female Kiwis that I know that work in the UK accounting industry, you and Ash Gibson, and there seems to be like a running theme.
Yeah, that's true. We are mighty, I think. What is it that I've had for years of my life? Powerful things come in small packages like dynamite. I think someone told me that when I was younger. I think maybe they just wanted me to shut up, probably. Mm.
Okay, I realize I've skipped a step. For those who don't know you, please could you just introduce yourself? So your name, where you work, and what do you do for fun? There you go. That's the third question.
Oh, okay. So my name is Lisa Miles Hill, but a lot of people call me LMH. But I do reserve the right for people to call me Lisa if they're uncomfortable with calling someone a three-letter acronym. I think it's a Kiwi thing as well that we're kind of okay with that.
Hmm.
I'm the CEO of Silverfin, and I'm an advisor and a board member, and I do some other kind of stuff around the place. Actually, still connected quite well with some Australian and New Zealand software businesses as well, because you can't take the Kiwi and the South Pacific out of you. And for fun, I like to make cocktails.
Hmm.
And I also like to be in the kitchen or in the garden. So effectively anything that's the opposite of what I do most of my rest of week, which is using my mouth and my brain.
Yeah,
I'm not offending people here by saying gardening and cooking don't use your brain, but I don't have to use my mouth so much.
I get it. For you,
To consume,
it turns your brain off. Like for Gordon Ramsay, his
or
brain's probably
does
firing away, but for you, it's a fun thing, so it's not you thinking. Okay,
100%.
let's go back to the cocktails though. What
Yeah.
cocktails what are you making? Are we talking like
Oh,
non-alcoholic, all of them?
no.
What's your favorite cocktail to make?
So I think I like to make a nice raspberry daiquiri. And I'm really lucky that because I like gardening, we've got a garden, and I can grow some raspberries and then put the raspberries, even if they're a little bit overripe, they make perfect. They make perfect content for the raspberry daiquiri. So I'm really into raspberry daiquiris. I love a good champagne cocktail.
Mhm.
But I also like to make cocktails to order. So if you come to my place or if you come for dinner with me, I'll often be saying, what do you want for cocktail? I worked in hospitality in my youth for many, many, many years, and I was a cocktail bartender when I was younger. And so I like to
Um,
perhaps still think I'm reasonably okay at it. And I like to take orders. So if people want to give me cocktail orders, I make to order.
does the type of cocktail reflect upon a person's personality? Can you stereotype people in that way? For example, like
Mm.
you can tell the kind of person someone's going to be sometimes by their coffee order.
That's a good question. I've not collected enough data on that one. I think if I thought about it, I might be able to draw some conclusions. I'm
Hmm.
trying to think of the people I've made cocktails for recently. I think what I would say before I get into type of cocktail is volume of cocktail consumption definitely says a bit about a person.
Oh,
My
please
the kind
expand.
of people I really enjoy are those people who are adventurous with cocktails. They'll try a few different types. Make sure we don't start with the creamy ones. We start with the clear ones. We end with the creamy ones. Otherwise, it kind of gets a bit upset in your tummy, and that's not a
100%.
good night. But no, I think it's people who can try lots of different cocktails, and they don't need to be big, but they need to be tasty. So I think a person who's up for the adventure, you can say a bit about them, and a person who just kind of sticks with the one thing. You see less of those people at my house, I think I'd say.
Okay. We might be the same kind of people. I'll try everything. Like
Really? Well,
no matter what's in it, I'll give it a go. Right? What's the worst that can happen?
I'm good with that, except tequila. I had too
Fair.
many worshipping the porcelain god experiences in my youth on tequila, and it's memorable. So I don't do tequila or McDonald's fillets of fish, and I think the two are related.
Was the filet o fish your kind of what do you call it? Your hangover cure? Is that what it was, or the feel
No, it was the thing I would eat when I
at the
was
end of the
not
night?
yet hungover, but
Yeah.
certainly shouldn't have been eating. And I would just sort of stupidly. And so a lot of those memories of what the porcelain god was receiving are linked to the filet of fish. So we don't do either of those now. Tequila or filet of fish are off.
sorry, I've just got a message saying that my audio is a bit quiet and muffly. So give me 2 seconds. I'm just gonna
Oh,
mess with my microphone, see if I can get that any better. Microphone volume up, closer to my face
does
hole.
that mean there's actually someone listening? Like I
Yeah,
said
yeah,
to
yeah.
you, I think, I mean, you're famous. People want to come and hear from you, but why would people like say no one's going to show up, Dale? For goodness sake! But
To be
that may
honest, the only people that listen to this are like my mum, my cat, and sometimes my sister. There's like no audience whatsoever. This is just for pure my own amusement.
there we go. But
Literally,
I
that's it.
I I heard that maybe Phil might be joining. So if you have one listener, and if
Yeah.
it's Phil, if that's you, hey,
Well,
thanks.
actually, I know who it is. I'll give her a shout out. It's Julie Sinsbury.
Ah, well, Julie might have some insider info about cocktails.
Yeah, is she a cocktail fiend?
She's a cocktail drinker. Yeah, I
And
know.
also short as well.
Yeah, maybe that's it. Maybe there's something. Maybe it stunted our growth if we all started drinking cocktails too young.
No. Let's not put false news out there. Cocktails are great.
No,
They're
no.
fantastic. Yeah.
Okay, right. I got told that if I smoked when I was a teenager, it was stunting my growth. Is that true or not? Is that a medical fact? Because I got told that, and I did smoke. I was a little bad girl when I was like 12, 13,
Oh yeah.
smoked cigarettes, and I am little. And I have a brother and sister who are not little, and they didn't smoke. And my mother used to tell me that that was why I was so short.
I mean, I think there's some logic to it, but there's people who've disproven that. I've got a cousin who is 6'4" and started smoking when he was like 13, 14, and he's 6'4". So
There we go. Okay,
would he
not
have been 7 foot tall? I don't think so.
mm, who knows?
Okay, I'm gonna have to ask you some serious questions because
Right.
obviously this is streaming on LinkedIn, and we're both serious business people.
Yeah, I can tell
Serious
looking
business
at
people
you.
things.
You see, look,
Yeah.
I put a collar on today just for the occasion.
I'm wearing my best hoodie, just for
Oh,
the occasion.
there we go.
I got the best cardigan hoodie. All right, where are my serious questions? I
Serious
remember I
question.
posted them.
You
See, this is
did.
what happens when you do a show on a low budget. It's like it's just me trying to find stuff that I mentioned.
Yeah.
Bear with me. Bear with me.
I remember there was something about, how would you kind of inspire other young leaders? I interpreted that as women leaders because I
No.
generally
Just
most leaders.
anybody. Just anybody.
Anybody.
Any young person. Yeah. Okay. Here's a good one, right? So, a lot of people look at the C-suite, which you're in, and think,
Mm.
I want that. Are there any tips you can give to anybody with regards to C-suite activity? Like, is there a certain route they have to go down? For example, I'm going to load the question a little bit. I've noticed a lot of CFOs and FDs become CEOs. Do you need to have a financial background to become a CEO?
No, and I would say I'm case in point because I don't, even though I've led finance teams. I'm not a finance person, but then I've led technology businesses and I can't write a line of code.
Mm-hmm.
So no, I don't think any one particular pathway from your, I'll call it craft, is a prerequisite. But advice that I'd give is be really good at what you do and love what you do and figure out how you get what gives you energy. And then if that is the path, that you take, then progression and ending up in the C-suite, I think that's probably the most authentic, legitimate way to get there, by just being really engaged and getting energy in what you love doing the most. Because generally we get engaged and have energy about things we're good at. We like a bit of sort of recognition and a bit of self kind of I'm doing okay at this. I'm going to keep going. So I think you find the things you love. It's a cliche, Simon Sinek's book and all the rest of it. But if you're doing what you love and you're doing it well, then the opportunities will open themselves up.
Okay, so is tech what you love? Is that your passion?
Yeah, I love tech, but I also love marketing and go-to-market activities. I also love people. I'm a business analyst at core. So I started a long, long time ago as a BA, which was basically just a career for nosy people. And then I became a project manager, which is basically just a career for bossy people. And that was a great combo for me because I'm both those things. And so I did those things outside of tech. So I did those things in sort of business generally. I suppose I love business. I do love business. I love the structure of business, the idea of creating value, people coming together and creating value. Which, by the way, also means I'm a bit of a Luddite because I'm one of those school of thought. You're not going to hear about me flying planes across America or anything, but I'm definitely one of those C-suite people who likes to engage with people, one to one, face to face. So I'm a 2 to 3 days in the office minimum kind of chick, and that's not likely to change. I believe teams and businesses are built better on connections, and whilst the digital connection is valuable and it is a form, for me personally, I don't translate as well on screen. Like, I'm busy looking at you and me on screen here going, God, I look awful. But if you were sitting here in my office, that thought wouldn't even go past my mind. We'd just be having a great chat about things. And, you know, I think fronting up and being authentic and knowing what it is that you're good at, but also knowing what you stand for and what you like is a super important thing on that path to C-suite as well. And in fact, I remember for years and years saying I didn't want to be a CEO. I was a COO for a number of years in tech and loved that job because I could manage down into the organization and not have to worry about managing up and out, external stakeholders, board members, and things like that. And I don't know what you've heard about me, but I'm not necessarily the most politically correct person. I don't have a lot of grace. No, I don't. Every New Year's I go, I'm going to be more graceful this year, Lisa, more graceful. And then by
most of the reason why I invited you on the show, by the way, because I know you can just chat and it'll be great. Like, it's going to be awesome.
Yeah, but I think that thing of, as a CEO, I had this idea that you had to be a certain kind of person and you had to act in a certain kind of way. And I didn't think that was me. So I named myself or badged myself as a career number 2 player. I was really a really strong number 2 player, the kind of person that a CEO would say, come work with me, help me get the job done. And I would be that person that would make sure the job was done. And so coming into CEO land was quite weird for me. And probably, you know, I'm 3 years in or whatever. I was co-CEO / global COO. God, too many vowels here before. But this is probably my first gig where I'm fully in charge. And you could still probably talk to some people around me who'd say, LMH is not your typical, you know, she's not walking around going, I'm the CEO. And actually probably if people looked at it, if someone, a management consultant came in here and observed me, they'd say, oh, you act a bit more like a COO than a CEO, whatever that is. But
I was going to ask, like, are you able to clarify the difference? I know what those acronyms mean, but what traits do you attribute to a COO that a CEO wouldn't typically do? Can you give an example, maybe?
Well, before I became one, I attributed a few negative traits to a CEO, and that's why I said,
Please share what negative attributes.
Okay, so the negative traits I used to attribute to CEO were that they were people that were not necessarily really good at anything. And they were just really good at making it look as though they were good at stuff. So there was a kind of a facade, like a leadership.
I've met a few of those, to be honest. So yeah, fair enough.
I also thought that they were people that were very polished and were very graceful and polished. And they were the people who did a lot of managing up and out and actually were very good at that, but maybe weren't so great when it came to relating to people on a human level, which is something is super important to me. I've a really sort of wrong side of the tracks background, which I think shapes me.
Yeah, you started smoking at 13. Tut. Naughty. Shame.
More colourful from there. But anyhow, but that to me is my badge. That's one of the badges I wear that says, because I've been through some stuff in life, I can relate well to people. And I think that even though some people say that I'm the scariest person they know, some other people would say, there's actually not much about LMH that really shocks her. She's not judgy. You know, she's got life experience. And I always thought CEOs were not that kind of person. They were the kind of polished, no rough edges, probably had great schooling, probably had great family lives, probably spoke properly. And I sort of went, nah, that's not me. But by the way, I've got a bit of life experience that people should relate to more easily, and therefore I would be more accessible. So those were two things I used to say CEOs were, and I didn't think I was.
Okay. That's a great answer. Thank you. Would you like a follow-up question on that, a serious question on a different topic, or a silly question?
I would like a follow-up question on that.
Okay, so you mentioned like you're more of a people person, and did you say rough around the edges, or did I interpret that incorrectly?
No, you can. I think I probably implied it.
Okay, you implied. That's what I inferred. So how do you think that helps you as a CEO?
I think it keeps you real and it keeps you grounded, and and it hopefully makes you, you know, like I said, like approachable to people, that people don't see you as a kind of a lofty, inaccessible. And that's something that's been important to me, especially for young women, is that I think young, you know, that's that phrase, you need to see it to be it, right? So I want to present an idea of what leadership looks like as a woman that might make some other woman go, oh, that's the first time I've seen someone that looks like that. And by the way, I'm a bit more like that than the 25 other CEOs that I've ever met in my life. And that might then give that person some confidence or some optimism that they don't have to change themselves to be at that level of their career, to get into that C-suite room. I spent a lot of years when I was younger, not just the New Year's thing where I'd go, oh, this year I'm going to be more graceful. But in my early career, I do remember spending a lot of time and energy and effort going, if I could just be better, if I could just change myself more, then I would fit in better as a senior person around the table. And the sad thing was that often, because of the industry I was in, unless I was going to do gender reassignment, which is obviously possible, but unless I was going to do that, I was probably always never really going to look like all the other people in the room. But I wasn't even focused on that. Like I never walked around with a chip on my shoulder saying it was my gender that made me different. But boy, did I have a long list of things on the inside that I was saying, I'm not quite as good as them, or I'm not going to be able to get to where they are because I've got a bit of a couple of things missing in my foundation. And I thought for a long time that unless I could somehow fill those foundation pieces, many of which it turns out you can't, because your personality is well formed by the time you're in your 30s. So it was about getting to that place where I actually accepted I could be me and I could be successful and I could do work I loved. Now, if there'd been more people in my sort of group of influence or networks that looked a bit more like some things I recognized, I reckon I would have given up on some of those long lists in my head. I reckon I would have gone, actually, I don't need to change this because I met that really successful CEO over there and they've got that same thing I've got and they seem to be doing fine. But unfortunately, there were fewer people that I could sort of check the list of. So instead, I spent a lot of energy going, well, how can I change me to be more like everyone else who I was, you know, interacting with? Is that a
You
bit deep?
mentioned
Sorry, you
no,
wanted
that's
to.
we're gonna go deeper again.
Oh,
Let's keep rolling. You mentioned you know, you finally came to the conclusion or realization that you can be successful as you are, not miss out on certain attributes that you saw around you. How do you define success?
yeah. Success for me, as simple as it is being happy with what I do, is being happy, being content, being grounded in knowing that the effort that I put in and the impact that I can create, or so the inputs and the outputs are balanced. To me, that's success. So if I choose tomorrow to give up being a CEO and to go and be a chef or a cocktail bartender, then success for me is that I feel that every bit of effort and focus I put into being a cocktail bartender returns with an equivalent or a fair or a reasonable set of outcomes. And that's success. Now, in some cases, it could be money. In some cases, it could be fame. In some cases, it could be making people happy. It could be, you know, keeping myself busy, whatever it is. But to me, it's the input-output ratio. That's what success is for me. Now, when you sit in a job like mine now, you do, when you're looking at the input you put in, and there's quite a bit, you're obviously expecting to create some impact and to have some, you know, to make a difference, right? And success for me is feeling as though what I put in and what I get out, it does make a difference. But I'm less defined by some of those. I'm a list writer, so I set goals every year, and I really hold myself accountable at the end of every year for saying, did I achieve the goals that I set? And so you could argue that the last 30 years of my career have been about a series of goal setting, you know, probably 300 goals that I've set over the last 30 years, 10 a year maybe. And my husband and kids would say, it's way more than that, Mum. You're dreaming if you could get it down to 10. This has been looking at the sort of scorecard at the end of the year and saying, I achieved more than what I didn't achieve. And therefore the effort I put in and the ratio of that return was in the green, so to speak.
Okay. Let's go on the family topic. You mentioned your husband and your kids. How many kids do you have?
I have 2 kids. I have a daughter at 22. She's in her last year at Loughborough University in the UK, and she's doing business. And I have a son who's 19, just turned 19 last weekend, and he is in his first year of a commerce degree in New Zealand.
Which one's your favourite?
No, can't do that. They're both convinced that the daughter's the favourite. Both of them are. Both of them think that the daughter is.
Then they're probably right.
Yeah, they probably are. Without disclosing too much, my son and I have had a bit of a rocky journey, and he's coming right, and we're coming right together. I had to learn a few lessons in how to manage a very, very intelligent, strong-willed son after parenting a very, very strong-willed, intelligent. I'll add in an extra phrase that you'll notice is missing from the first one: hard-working daughter.
Got it.
But there's 2 of us. What I would say is we're really lucky. There's 2 of us. There's my husband and I, and Angus and I have been together. Oh God, we were talking about the other day. I think we've been together like 28 years, 27 years now. We've not been married. Thanks. Not been married that long. And we're quite different. Him and I are quite different people, which is, sometimes that's the formula. But Angus and I, we take parenting really seriously, and we had kids. I always wanted to have kids, but we had them kind of late, so 32 or 35, so everyone can figure out how old I am now. I'm freaking old, by the way. Like, that is a real shock, realizing that you're old enough to be a grandmother. But I'm not, thank goodness. Unless my son calls me up after this and says, Mum, there's something I need to tell you.
He's in his first year of uni. It could happen.
Yeah, it's true. There's a lot of drinking that goes on. There's a lot of lost moments, I would say, like moments you just don't have any idea where they've gone. So anyhow, so the kids are good. Daughter's like a mini version of me. Son's probably like a mini version of his dad. Both very smart, both very worldly, great values, Kiwi at heart, but because they did some schooling up here in the UK, they've got a really interesting mix of things going on. Both very sporty.
So did they grow up in the UK, or have they done?
No, they grew up in New Zealand. We came up to the UK 6.5 years ago now. I just got my PR a few months back after sitting the Life in the UK test, which that could be another whole topic of conversation. I could guarantee you.
My first question is, what's a PR? Sorry.
It's permanent resident or right to remain, indefinite leave to remain.
Right.
Sorry, thank you. So I'm allowed to stay now. I've been a tax resident for God knows how long, but they could have kicked me out at any moment. Just got that recently. So I've been up 6.5 years, and we were all up here at the start, and kids were being schooled in Bristol, which is where our home is. And then Holly went off to boarding school. She got a scholarship to go to Millfield, which was really nice after being at Clifton College in Bristol. Ethan was also at Clifton College, but then he kind of lost his way a little bit, and then we ended up sending him back to New Zealand to finish his high school there. And he's ended up going to uni there. So the kids are good. They'll be stars, both of them, and they're driven. They're good, well-rounded, international, progressive kids with good values. And my lovely husband, he works in technology. He's a technologist. He often tells people that he does the work and I boss people around doing the work. And he travels with me. So I travel. I don't know if you've heard that about me, but I travel a lot. So the nature of the Silverfin roll is that I spend 1 week, Sunday to Thursday, in Ghent in Belgium, which Ghent, by the way,
nice place.
Ghent tourism should pay me some money, because I am always sending photos to people about how amazing Ghent is. So 1 week in Ghent, Sunday to Thursday. And then the second week I spend in London, Monday to Thursday, Tuesday to Thursday, and home is actually Bristol. So I'm on a constant move around. I'm normally Fridays and Saturdays always in Bristol, so always moving, always moving. And so my husband travels with me. He works remotely, and he will be sometimes sitting here in the Silverfin office, London or Ghent. It's always quite funny waiting to see how long a new starter takes before they ask who he is, under sort of like, intruder challenge, like security.
Who's that guy? Yeah, he doesn't work for us. Why is he here? Who is he?
Who is that guy? What's he doing? Anyhow, so he travels with me, and you don't take a job like this and not expect to front your folk, but also you don't take a job like this and then want to spend most of your time, 80% of your time, away from your true love. So Angus and I are kind of like salt and pepper, chalk.
I like that you called him your true love. That is genuinely lovely. No sarcasm.
He is.
In that case, I got to ask, if it's not too personal, how did you guys meet, and how did he make his move, or did you make a move? Did he come up to you
Oh
and be like,
my
"Hey,
God.
girl," and you go for that yawn and reach? Do you buy a drink? How? If this is too
This is
personal, by the way, feel free to decline. I'm just now
No,
genuinely
no, no, no,
intrigued.
no, no. There's a few people who know this story, and it is funny. I relayed it to someone this week. I'll give the
The
abridged
abridged
version.
version. Yeah.
Yeah, we met at a casino, and in very bad style, he was a dealer and I was a player.
Okay. You
And the
you playing
story
blackjack?
goes,
Like what? We
no, playing craps, the
okay,
dice
perhaps.
game,
Yep. Okay. Yep.
which is there's forward was three dealers and a supervisor that sits on a craps
Yep.
table, and I was a player. And it's quite a funny story. I was quite sure he was hinting because he was talking in the third person to the dealer opposite me about where he was going at the end of his shift, what he was going to do, how he was having a drink, blah blah
Yep.
blah blah blah.
Yep.
I 100% thought that meant right, Lisa. That's where you got to be at the end of his shift. He left his shift and
Yep.
the other guy was still on the table, and I didn't actually know which bar it was, but I interrogated him as I do and found out.
Hmm.
I went and promptly showed up at said bar,
Hmm.
which turned out to be a staff bar, and I don't know how I talked my way in there, but I did.
Skills.
And then it turned out that, in fact, he wasn't hinting at me, but the guy across the dealer was his flatmate, and he was basically arranging to meet him at the end of his shift so that they could get a ride home together. But anyhow, as they say, all the rest is history, and now we're still together.
That is a pretty cool story. I like that. That's original.
And I'm not allowed to gamble on his tables. Well, he's not a dealer anymore, but back then it was also very tricky because you're not supposed to, place bets on tables of people you're having sex with. By the way, I wasn't having sex with him. Just in case my kids are listening to this, I did not have sex with your dad for at least the first 6 months, just so you know.
Okay, let's take it back to business. I keep forgetting because I'm enjoying talking to you, but we got to talk about business stuff. I'm going to ask you a really, really obvious question, right? What is Silverfin?
Okay, so Silverfin, you know that it's software, and well, I hope everybody does. When your accountants do your end of year compliance work. So I've got an accountant to make sure I stay out of jail and I pay the right amount of tax and I do everything. So companies have accountants in-house, and then often they'll have an accountant that's doing their end of year compliance work. Not audit is different, but they'll be taking their Xero, QuickBooks, whatever that is that they're doing all of their what we call pre-accounting or bookkeeping work, everything they spent money on, and they'll give it to their accountants and they'll go, just make sure I pay the minimum but legal amount of tax. Just make sure that you give me advice, thanks, accountant, on how I can run a better business next year, and make sure that you ask me all the right questions and I tick all the right boxes. And it's often called client accounting, compliance accounting, that kind of stuff. So Silverfin is a piece of software that cuts across all those other tools that you can be working in day to day in your business, and it takes all the data from that and it sticks it in one system. It's cloud based, so it's available anywhere, anytime. It's built in the cloud. It's got AI built into it. Before AI became sexy to talk about, we were doing machine learning 3-4 years ago. We've got 10 data scientists on staff, so it's a big thing for us. And basically we take all of that data and we come up with one standard workflow for doing annual accounts, corporation tax, and things like that. So if you're an accounting firm, and we only sell to accounting firms, but if you're an accounting firm and you've got clients working on different systems, you don't want to have all your junior accountants, middle accountants following all these different processes based on the way the data arrived. You want them to do one process, follow a flow, and then your seniors and your partners, they can sign off. They know, okay, and when you bring new staff on, and staff shortage in the accounting industry is a big deal. So you want to get people up to speed as quickly as possible. So Silverfin's like the standard workflow for kind of annual accounts, digital working papers, corporation tax, and all that client accounting compliance work. We're all around the world, so 13 countries around the world, but we started in Belgium. And so it's a bit of a success story of a couple of guys who had a good idea and built something. It's great tech. It's almost like the best technology you've probably not heard of, kind of going about its business.
You would say that. You are somewhat biased.
I am a little bit biased, but I ask people. I do ask people.
And also, if you've never heard of it, we can't give examples because we've never heard of other examples. Okay, question for you. This is going to be a dumb one. If I were a business owner, would I know that my accountant is using Silverfin, or would it even make a difference to me in any way, shape, or form?
Yeah, it would.
So what difference does it make to me? Is my limited company? I'm turning over 2 million. I've got 5 staff. Not huge. But what difference does it make if they're using Silverfin or if they're using another?
Okay, so the difference might be, let's say you as a business, you're on Xero. Let's just
Yep.
pick a cloud accounting system.
Mhm.
You would know that your accountant was on Silverfin because rather than wait till the end of the year to tell you what you needed to know about what not to do next year to pay more tax, they could potentially call you up anytime in the year at the end of the month and go, Dale, we noticed, because we've got real-time syncing of all of your data coming out of Xero, we noticed that actually now you've gone over a threshold and you're in now a new tax bracket for something. If you don't stop doing that, you or move some of your spending this way or move some of your sales or do whatever, they might have to wait till the end of the year to tell you that when they've got all of your books, reconciled. Whereas if they were using Silverfin, they'd know in real time.
Wow. Okay. That's actually genuinely helpful to me as a business owner.
Yeah, genuinely helpful. And the other thing that you would notice probably is the quality of service that you got around your end of your accounts wouldn't be dependent on any individual, because the workflow is kind of dominant and it's cloud-based and it's anywhere, anytime. You would, if that accounting firm got bought or acquired by another accounting firm, which we all know is happening a bit these days, you would just still follow the same process, because the process would be dominant and the person running the process would know that process, and you would engage in the same way. So it wouldn't be dependent on the person nor the firm and who owned that firm. It would be standard.
That's interesting, because my understanding, and I'm happy to be corrected, the individual doing the accounts, reviewing and preparing the accounts, is sometimes where the difference is made, right? So you have someone who might have 40 years worth of accounting experience in agriculture, for example, or technology, right? Let's go for technology, because technology businesses have different rhythms and cadences compared to other industries.
Indeed.
So are you saying that because someone uses Silverfin, they could put their template knowledge of preparing accounts for specifically a fintech or a tech company or a scale up, and that
In the system.
accounts process no longer requires the genius level of someone who's got 40
Indeed.
years of experience?
Indeed. And there'd be two things I'd say about that. One is the
Controversial.
firm would still be able to use that genius level of experience, but they would use it in a coaching or a reviewing capacity, not a creation capacity. So you would potentially pay less for the good stuff that you really need, i.e. you don't need that really experienced person in their senior rate to be doing your accounts production. You could have a less senior person do that, but then if you know you get the good stuff at the end because they've reviewed it and they know. The second thing is using AI and machine learning. The Silverfin Assistant, for example, is checking those accounts and doing even the work that junior would normally have to do. It's being done in the background for them, and it's prompting all of those, hey, are you sure kind of moments, and it's wording it, and it's even bringing up, because this is where AI is going, of course, and we want to use it in a really constructive way. First, it's checking against your accounts from last year and going, that doesn't seem right. Secondly, it's going and checking against all the other accounts of the other software businesses that this firm is managing. That doesn't look quite right. And then the third thing it's saying is, and here's how we suggest you tackle this, because here's the piece of legislation or the particular compliance rule that covers it. So it's trying to educate the person at the same time. It's not just teaching them, it's not fishing for them, it's teaching them how to fish at the same time. That's hugely powerful if you're a firm that wants to maximize your high quality, experienced, time poor folk on the highest value work. Conversations with you is what they should be doing, versus all of that processing and workflow and accounts production should be done by less experienced or by the system itself.
So there are those in the accounting and bookkeeping industry that are afraid of what you said, and I'm paraphrasing and inferring to an extent, but their fear is Silverfin combined with Xero, combined with some other AI tool, will replace them. Do you think that's possible and or true, or is that fear, what's the word, misfounded, misplaced? I don't know. There you go.
I think it's misplaced. I think there definitely should be some caution around AI and how it will shape the industry for sure. But I don't think fear. I don't think fear is the right word. I think one of the principles we have here at Silverfin, and any good software vendor will have a similar principle, so I'm not just saying it's a Silverfin thing, is for us, the accountant's always in control. The machine is not in control. The accountant is always in control. All the heavy lifting work that we do, we serve it up and we say to the accountant, yay or nay, your call. You make the decision. You're going to sign your name at the bottom of those. Okay. Until something really radical changes in the world, I doubt that governments are going to let end of year accounts be signed by a machine. So some individual human being, flesh and blood's got to put their name to that. Even with making tax digital and all the rest of it, the government's not going to accept that. They'll just take the pass, look through, fair, yeah, fine. I don't think it'll happen. So someone's got to verify and validate that with their experience, their wisdom, and all the rest of it. And I think that will never change.
I'm glad you said that.
Sorry, the difference is that we want accountants to be doing more meaningful work and less manual work. That's, I think there's a phrase I've been quoted as using. The accountants in the digital age that we're in right now, they need to be more relevant and more respected than ever. And AI and other tools are a pathway to making that happen, as opposed to at the moment where they barely get enough time to do the actual accounting work because they're so freaking busy doing all of the other administrative work and other aspects of their job. And we want to free up that time so that accountants become more relevant and more respected in this digital age. And yes, we should be a little bit wary. We should be a little bit suspicious. Of course we should, because otherwise we're all just swallowing the blue pill or drinking the green water or whatever it is. And we should be, because there's a lot of power in this technology, and in the wrong hands or used in the wrong ways, it is something to be really aware of and mindful of. But I think in the right hands and in the right ways, and if everybody stays engaged with it and doesn't throw their hands up in the air and give up, that's actually, when I say what can accountants do about this, is not do that. Not stick their head in the sand and kind of, ignore it, but also not put their hands up in the air and go, oh, not my problem, I'll leave it up to someone else. No, you've got to stay engaged on it. There's an ad, we have this ad in New Zealand, I don't know if it's here, where, as a parent, you coach your kids on how to drive a car, so their driver's license, right? And you coach them, and then if you're really bad at it, you get them lessons as well. You coach them. You don't then step into their car for the first time that they're driving you and say, right, see, I'm off. You don't get out of the car because you don't trust them, right? So you don't avoid it. But you also don't sit in the car and then just say, I'm not going to give you any feedback, right? You've got to stay in control to a certain degree because you're still on that journey with them. Now, this might be a weird metaphor, so I'll try and string it back. Okay. If you see your coaching as being something that's actually helped your kid to be a better driver, the kid could be sitting there going, I don't want my mum and dad next to me. That's threatening, that's whatever. I want to do it myself. But it's the combination of the two. You're still there, you're still helping them, you're still giving them and of course they need to want your help. So you need to make them feel like they're in control. Like if you sit in the car and you tell them what to do, well, they're not going to become a great driver, nor are they going to invite you back. The kid needs to feel in control, but the technology needs to be working for them in the same way. I would argue, sorry to all parents out there, that actually your kids are in charge when you're even teaching them how to drive or sitting in the car next to them. You might not want that. You might want to feel like you're in charge, but they're in charge. They are in charge. Your job is to empower and enable them and stop them from killing themselves in the best way that you know how. If you never get in the car with them, they're going to miss your wisdom. If you get in the car and tell them what to do, they're never going to become a good driver. So I kind of see AI in a roundabout way a bit like that. As accountants, we've got to stay in charge, in control, stay engaged, make sure that we use the tools available to us. It'll make us stronger.
Cool. I have to ask one of my more important questions from the LinkedIn post. It was question number 3. Who's your favorite rapper?
Oh, that's easy. Eminem.
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Mainly because, I'm not listening to rap music anymore, and I listened to him a lot in my youth. Because I don't listen to rap anymore. I went to a really good concert a couple of weekends ago in London, Elderbrook, and I am in love with him. So much so that my Spotify Wrapped told me that he was, someone who I should hear from in my Spotify Wrapped. Fun fact of the day, though, and I don't mean to name drop, but I will.
Do it. Drop away.
I hear that John Toon's got a photo of himself in Elderbrook because he went to the Manchester concert and saw this guy outside having a ciggy. And for some reason was drawn to talking to him, and it turned out it was Elderbrook, and I think he got a photo. So
that's a poor name drop. I thought it was going to be like I had a photo with Elderbrook. Like that would be more of a name drop.
I wish.
You're now hanging out. Okay, so you don't listen to rap anymore. Like what's on the Spotify playlist usually then?
Probably dance music. I'm a bit of a dancer. Yeah, dance music. Yeah, that kind of stuff. Yeah, I quite like that.
Okay. High energy.
Yeah, I like to move, or some female with strong whiny vocals like Florence and the Machine, or I
love whiny vocals. Like,
Yeah, when Kate Bush came round again, and my daughter couldn't believe that I actually knew the words to that song, and I had to tell her why. I've always been into strong female vocalists, and oh God, and I loved Sade when I was young, and I'll still listen to her. I really, though she's a bit dull live. Apparently, she's nothing like Elderbrook. But yeah, so I like dance music because I like to move. I am often seen cocktail making and cooking in my kitchen, dancing around.
okay.
I
Any
am clothed.
particular artists or DJs that you prefer? Like anyone you lean to? Like is a genre or period of dance that you like? Because drum and bass is a subcategory of dance, or some people would say it is,
Yeah.
or no, not quite. Is it more EDM kind of?
No, yeah, more kind of house dance. Like some people would say it's a bit more disco-y, I suppose, because
Okay.
anything that was sort of around in my prime years was when I was clubbing a lot was kind of like the 90s,
90s.
late 80s, 90s. In
Okay.
it, Cream and or I was a little New Zealand girl, and UK DJs were like the bomb if anyone came down
I
to
mean,
New
they still
Zealand.
are, but sure.
Yeah, yeah, maybe. But like I
I'm fine.
said, Elderbrook does it. I'd follow Elderbrook to a few concerts because he's a mix between,
Okay.
he's a DJ, but he's also a producer and he sings, and that Elderbrook and Rudimental. But yeah, I kind of like that kind of stuff.
Okay. Okay. I have to ask you another silly question. If you could
Mm.
eat one meat for the rest of your life, forsaking all others, what meat slash animal would you choose?
Hmm. Hmm. I think I'd have to say lamb because I'm a New Zealander.
Lamb. So you picking lamb.
Mm.
You're never having steak again. You're never having beef steak. You're never having any chicken soup again.
I
You're never
would.
having a spaghetti bolognese again.
No,
It
I'd make
has
it
to be
with
like
lamb. I'd just make
lamb
it with
mince bolognese.
lamb. Yeah, lamb mince bolognese. It was a close one though. I wanted to be really exotic and say Iberian pork.
Iberico ham. Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it?
Well, because if you get some good pork loin though, and it's cooked, and it doesn't even taste like pork. It tastes like beef. There's a great Spanish restaurant in Bristol called Bravas that I frequent regularly, and they do an amazing presser pork. But yeah, no, I would go lamb. You can't take, like I said, you can't take the kiwi out of me. I think
Okay.
lamb's the bomb.
Lamb it is. Lamb it is. Do you speak any other languages, by the way?
Interesting. I have been learning Duolingo Dutch because I work in a business where the ability for these people to speak different languages is astounding. So in Belgium, you normally speak at least 3 languages: English, French, and Dutch.
Flemish. Yeah.
Flemish Dutch. You'll probably speak a couple more on top of that as well. So I've been learning Duolingo Dutch.
Hmm.
But I wouldn't be brave enough to speak it. But I can now read things around the place, and I can understand people. I haven't yet told the team how much I understand, so that I can
Oh,
just
you can hear their conversations. They've been talking smack about you, thinking that you can't
yeah,
understand. You're
yeah,
like,
yeah.
she hears all.
Indeed, but the funny thing is,
Yeah.
LMH is really easy to pick up. So if they ever use my name, I know they're doing it. I did French at school, so I could probably add a push. And when I'm on the Eurostar, I try and understand that, but I'm hopeless. But I also did a little bit of New Zealand Sign Language when I was younger. So if I pick up another language again, I'll probably go back to sign language. And as all good New Zealanders should, I do try and include a little bit of Māori in my vocab when I can. And, my generation, we all learnt Māori at school, but not much. My children's generation and kids now, they're learning a lot more to keep the language alive. And I feel really passionately about that as a New Zealander, even though I'm a Pākehā New Zealander or a European descent New Zealander. The Māori language and culture is an extremely important part of New Zealand, and I think we all have a part to play in preserving that and showcasing it to the rest of the world, so that it's not just the haka that people know New Zealand and Māori language for when they see it in front of a rugby game, but there's much more to it. New Zealand is an amazing place, and I think a good chunk of why it is so amazing is because our Indigenous folk are behind that, and also potentially generations of our redressing of some of the imbalances and some of the wrongs that were made in early settlement of New Zealand. I think New Zealand's been pretty progressive on righting some of the imbalances and really getting that right. So I feel proud to be part of that.
Speaking of culture, and this isn't me blowing smoke, why is it? This is my observation. Why are Kiwis always so cool and or chill? It's a cultural thing, in my observation. Every Kiwi I've worked with, and all the friends I've got, they're always just like so chill. Is that because they put on a face just for me? But they always, this seems like a part of their personality or the culture in general. It's just like a more chill
Well,
way
we're
of
a
living
young
or approach.
culture. We're a young culture, so forget we don't have a lot of baggage. Dare I say it, the UK's years and years of history, which is amazing. I mean, I stand in one of my kids' college buildings when they were at school, and it's older than New Zealand, right? So contextually, there's a lot of baggage and history that goes along with that. Some of it's good, some of it's not so good, right? And people inherit that whether you like it or not. New Zealand's a young culture. It's a progressive culture. I'd even go so far as to say it's probably a feminist culture. We're very good on equal opportunity, and because we're a million miles from anywhere, and you've basically got to roll your sleeves up and get the job done. You can't look to somebody else to come rescue you. The Australians aren't going to come rescue you. They're going to steal all your best sports teams. They're going to, they're going to steal your best food. They're going to say they're better at you than other things just because they're bigger, and they're not, by the way. But that's okay. So we've grown up with a very independent mindset, and a kind of they call it the number 8, the Kiwi number 8 fencing wire mentality, which is you just have got to get on and get it done. I think from that comes also a tolerance of people. We're a young multicultural society. There's a lot of immigrants in New Zealand, and everyone's just kind of in it together. And we've had our share of challenges as a nation, but there's a lot. We're a friendly folk. We don't have airs and graces. We don't take ourselves too seriously. We're an open-minded kind of culture, and we just kind of get on with it. And I think if you meet a New Zealander and you're not in New Zealand, then probably that independence streak and the fact that they've moved out of New Zealand, they'll always go back to New Zealand, by the way. New Zealanders will always go back to, but they explore the world. They love people. They love to learn because we're a long way from other culture. So we like to learn. And I think that means we're quite an open, pragmatic, see, I wouldn't describe it as chill. I'd describe it as friendly, because I think we are very friendly. We're very friendly, and but I think some of us are quite uptight. Like, I'd probably put myself in the uptight category. Like, we're hardworking.
See, I love how you think you're uptight, but like I would say you're a pretty chill person. So.
Oh wow, okay.
And again, I don't know you super well, so actually I could be misreading that entirely.
You should maybe do a survey afterwards. How many people think LMH is chill versus uptight? And I'll just look the other way.
Let's ask the employees of Silverfin and ask other people and do a comparison. See how that goes down.
But we're friendly. New Zealanders are definitely friendly. I'd say that for sure. It's a gross generalization, of course, because there's some unfriendly New Zealanders out there, I'm sure.
Oh, there are dickheads everywhere. I get that. Silly question or jokey question? What would you like next?
Silly question.
Popeye, SpongeBob, or Bugs Bunny? Snog, marry, kill.
God, I don't even know. Okay.
I assume you're familiar with the question and the premise of the game, right?
Yeah, I get it. I don't. Yeah. I'm a bit slow on the uptake there. Sorry.
That's right. Take your time. It's
cool. So Bugs Bunny. Bugs Bunny for me would be a snog.
Okay. Because you think he's a good kisser, or just?
Yeah, just he's got some sass about them. I think I kind of like that.
He's got some swagger. Yeah,
yeah, got some swag. Yeah, I agree with that. Popeye, nah, kill.
Popeye.
Just far too masculine for me, far too stereotypical. That's bad, because he's probably a sensitive person trapped inside a really masculine exterior.
Sure, let's go with that.
Let's go with that. And then the other one was
SpongeBob. You'd marry SpongeBob.
I'd have to marry SpongeBob.
By default, that's the only option left.
I could choose to not marry. Could I? No, that's not the way the game works. I'd marry SpongeBob because I think reliable, kind of not reliable, predictable. Maybe I need predictable in the marrying so that I can keep all my excitement and energy for other things.
Okay. Thank you for humoring me. I'm aware that was a ridiculous question.
Well, first time I've ever been asked it, so thank you for the first.
Glad I could be your first. So we're about to wrap up in the next 5-10 minutes.
Whoa, okay.
So before we, I know we're there already. It's been a great conversation. Before we do that, I think it's only fair, since I've bombarded you with questions. Do you have any questions for me?
How long have you been doing this show for? This format?
Year and a half, maybe 2 years, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
And who was your most rewarding guest? Like who did you get the most from? Not who did you like the most. I'm not looking for popularity. I'm looking for who did you get the most from?
Me personally, who I got the most from? Ayman Kauri, former EMEA for Zero, now works for Scope in the Middle East. He came on and I asked him questions about career progression, and he gave insights on be purposeful, and he broke it down and explained how he did it at Zero, and he actually went from like a development type role to more of a strategic leadership role, and he explained that Zero very helpful because he literally, like you, made a list of what he wanted to do. And the advice he gave to me and to others was like, if you want something in your career, like be purposeful about it. But the way he said it, I can't do it justice. But he said it in a way that just really resonated with me, and I think a lot of people also who were watching it went, "That's on point." So that's the one I remember the most, and I think that's the most I got out of it. Yeah.
Nice. And what are you doing for Christmas?
I am hanging out with my sister. She's the glamorous and cooler one out of the two of us for sure, and she has glamorous and cool friends. And I was like, let's hang out.
And like in the UK, and are you going away or?
Yeah, we're going to go to one of her friends' house in Southwest London. There's going to be food, there's going to be drink, there's going to be people. There may even be some celebrities there because that's the world my sister works in.
Oh, what does she do that means she can be in that world?
She's a radio presenter for the BBC.
Yeah. And that's not something you wanted to do? Because surely that's close enough. I can see you doing that.
I could do it, but I don't want to do it.
Okay.
Also, it's kind of her thing. Like, you know, she and I are really close, right? We're good friends. But back in the day, we used to fight like dog and cats, and there's always a little bit of like, that's my thing. So we'll let her do her thing.
Okay, so she's obviously doing all right though. She loves it. And,
she does enjoy it. And I'm biased. I think she's very good at it.
See what I mean though? It's such a basic concept. How many people are out there in the world doing something that they don't love, but they're good at it, and maybe the reward they're getting for it is tied them in, you know, they cannot do anything else because now they're committed.
Well, I'm really proud of my sister for this very reason. So she actually had a lucrative career in IT consulting and worked for the NHS and made good money. She was one of those people that lived in London and could afford to live in London, right? So she was doing all right. And she went, I really want to follow my dream. Did like some unpaid work for like a year and a half, did some lower salary work for another year, and then finally progressed. So I'm very proud of her for doing that.
Wow. Yeah, but go her, because people are either doing something they don't love, and they're not getting reward for it, or they're doing something that they do really, really, really love, but it's not giving them it's not helping them make their way in the world and progressing. And those of us who've got both lined up, gosh, that whole 3-factor Japanese thing, what you're good at, what you love doing, and what someone's willing to pay for. Sorry. I mean, that's nirvana, isn't it? So I think she sounds lucky. You sound lucky. I sound lucky.
We're all very lucky. Before we wrap up, though, I've got one other question I'd like to ask you.
Sure.
It is work related. It's the very first question on the LinkedIn post. What inspired you to join Silverfin, and how's your journey been so far?
Well, I was inspired to join, or I was persuaded to join by a founder. So I've got a bit of a history in my career of doing founder transitions, because maybe founders find me a little disarming or a little bit less kind of ego filled to kind of take their baby on the next phase of the journey. So I've had a couple of moments now where founders sort of say, we've got the business to here, will you take it to the next level? And it was one of the founders of Silverfin that convinced me to take his baby and take it to the next level for him, which was, I consider that to be a bit of an honor and a privilege and almost a responsibility.
Did you know each other before, or did he headhunt you, or like just?
Nope. I did a little piece of advisory work for this business through a connection of someone else, and then they said they were going to go get their first ever CEO, because it had been founder CEO, so they've had a CEO but external CEO. And I said, great, let me know if I can help you. And he said, well, would you do it? And I went, no. And I think I said no a few times. But then in the end, he asked with a kind of a big heart, and I couldn't say no. And so the journey's been exciting. It's been full on. It's been rewarding. It's been frustrating. It's been challenging. You grow through challenges. New Zealand female running a Belgium founded fintech that operates in 13 countries around the world. And I'm not an accountant, as I declared.
I think it's very cool. I think it's very, very cool.
It's challenging, but through that, there's been some great opportunities. And, the sale to Visma last year, which wasn't the reason why I came to the business, but you know, HG and the founders got an offer they couldn't refuse, and seeing the business to the next stage of the journey and promoting people from within, bringing through the next wave of leadership, because I won't be here forever, and that's not the goal. My goal is to set the business up and to create really long-term opportunities for the people here. And I'm well on my way to achieving that. So I feel really, really proud.
Cool. All right. Before we wrap things up, first of all, I want to say thank you very much for doing this. Again, I know everyone who does this show is busy, so thank you for taking the time to do it. You've been an awesome guest. Before I hit the end stream button, is there like kind of one nugget, pearl of wisdom that you want to drop, work-wise or otherwise, to finish the show?
The one I would drop for everyone would be have confidence in yourself, like have more belief. And I think, and I address this to anyone who's kind of listening that doesn't come from a sort of a magical unicorns and rainbows kind of background, is and I think it's a quote of somebody else, you are much more powerful than you ever believe you are. And sometimes you just have to trust that you are, even if you don't believe it, you know. So have more belief, but if you on the path to having more belief, sometimes accept that you don't have to have the belief, but it's good enough, and it is, you know, you are more powerful than you believe you are. So just assume that in certain circumstances, and then your belief will catch up with you eventually.
Mic dropped.